a world where titles once defined power and bloodlines commanded respect, a new dynasty of women emerged, not of noble birth, but of unimaginable wealth. These were the heiresses of America's Gilded Age and beyond, women who rivaled royalty in fortune, extravagance, and notoriety. Yet behind their glittering facades lay stories of scandal, heartbreak, and rebellion against a society desperate to control them. Today, on Regal Chronicles, we unravel the decadent, dramatic, and often tragic lives of America's richest women. This is not a fairy tale of tiaras and parties, but a chronicle of scandals that shook high society and shattered the illusion of happily ever after. But what happens when wealth is your prison? When the very fortune that elevates you also subjects you to a life of scandal, heartbreak, and constant public scrutiny? Let's find out. Gloria Vanderbilt, the poor little rich girl. Can a 10-year-old girl be thrust into a public battle for her future, her legacy, and her very identity? Gloria Vanderbilt's life began as a courtroom drama that captivated the nation. Our story begins with Gloria Vanderbilt, whose very name conjures images of old money opulence and American aristocracy. Born in 1924, Gloria was the great-great-granddaughter of Cornelius Vanderbilt, the shipping and railroad tycoon who built one of the largest fortunes in American history. But wealth, as Gloria's story reveals, does not guarantee happiness. When Gloria's father passed away, what followed was a scandalous battle for custody that would set the tone for her entire life. At the tender age of 10, Gloria became the centre of a media circus in what was dubbed the trial of the century. Following the sudden death of her father, Gloria's mother, Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt, a beautiful but scandal-ridden socialite with a penchant for European playboys, vied for custody of her daughter against Gloria's formidable aunt, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, a patron of the arts and founder of the Whitney Museum. The courtroom drama played out like a soap opera. Allegations of neglect, extravagant spending, illicit affairs, and even whispers of a lesbian romance between Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt and a German aristocrat filled the newspapers. Tabloid headlines declared young Gloria the poor little rich girl, a nickname that would follow her for life. But this story doesn't end in the courtroom. It continues, filled with tragedy, reinvention, and ultimate redemption. What did it cost Gloria to find herself beyond the Vanderbilt name? Adding fuel to the scandal, it was revealed that Gloria's mother had spent her late husband's fortune on lavish European holidays, designer gowns, and gifts for her string of lovers. Rumours swirled about orgies on yachts, secret rendezvous in Paris, and even blackmail attempts. Ultimately, custody was awarded to her aunt. But Gloria's battles had only begun. As she matured, she sought to escape the suffocating expectations of high society. Marrying 4 times, including to Hollywood director Sidney Lumet and conductor Leopold Stokowski, and reinventing herself as an artist, actress, and fashion icon, Gloria faced her share of personal tragedies. Most devastatingly, her 23-year-old son, Carter Vanderbilt Cooper, leapt to his death from the 14th floor of her Manhattan apartment as Gloria watched helplessly. The trauma scarred her forever. Yet Gloria remained resilient, a woman determined to define her identity outside the Vanderbilt name. Her later years saw her emerge as a successful jeans designer, memoirist, and enduring symbol of grace amid tragedy. But here's the question. Can someone who loses everything in the most public way reinvent themselves to find peace? Gloria Vanderbilt's journey is the story of that transformation, and it's one we can all learn from. Barbara Hutton, the Woolworth heiress. What happens when you inherit a fortune larger than most countries' GDP, but the price of it is your happiness? Barbara Hutton, the poor little rich girl, had everything except the one thing she truly needed: love. Next, we turn to Barbara Hutton, whose life reads like a cautionary tale wrapped in diamonds. The granddaughter of Frank W. Woolworth, founder of the iconic Woolworth retail empire, Barbara inherited an eye-watering $50 million at the age of 21, during the height of the Great Depression, when millions were starving. The press quickly dubbed her the poor little rich girl, a moniker loaded with both pity and schadenfreude. Despite her staggering wealth, Barbara's life was marred by personal tragedy and relentless public scrutiny. Her mother, Edna, died by suicide when Barbara was just 5 years old, a trauma that would haunt her. But what if the love you seek only leads to destruction? Barbara's pursuit of love would take her through a series of disastrous marriages, each one more scandalous than the last. Desperate for love and belonging, Barbara embarked on a series of ill-fated marriages, 7 in total. Her husbands included European nobility, Hollywood actors, and notorious playboys. Among them was Prince Igor Trubetskoy, a dashing Russian aristocrat-turned-race car driver, and Count Kurt Haugwitz-Reventlow, a violently abusive German count who isolated Barbara from friends and family. Lavish parties, million-dollar jewels, and international headlines followed her wherever she went. She purchased a 40-carat diamond known as the Pasha and owned some of the world's most famous gems, including the historic Marie Antoinette diamond earrings. Barbara's obsession with love and validation led to scandal after scandal. Her relationship with troubled actor Cary Grant ended in heartbreak. Affairs with younger men, including playboys and gigolos, made her a target for gossip columnists. One notorious affair with a married Italian prince ignited a transatlantic scandal with dueling tabloid accusations and threats of lawsuits. Could the diamonds, the jewels, the grand estates truly make Barbara happy? Or were they a hollow distraction from her inner pain? Behind the glamour was a woman besieged by loneliness, anorexia, and addiction. In her later years, Barbara lived as a recluse in a suite at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, her fortune depleted and her health failing. She died in 1979, a tragic figure whose life proved that money could buy anything but happiness. Barbara's life leaves us with a haunting truth. Sometimes the pursuit of happiness is more dangerous than the riches we think will provide it. Doris Duke, the tobacco heiress. What if the money and power you inherit could never satisfy the need for personal freedom? Doris Duke, the tobacco heiress, lived a life as extravagant as it was mysterious. Another heiress whose life was anything but conventional was Doris Duke. Born in 1912 to a tobacco fortune worth over $100 million, Doris was one of the wealthiest women in the world. Yet Doris never conformed to societal expectations. She defied debutante traditions, pursued journalism, and financed humanitarian causes. But her personal life was fraught with intrigue. But was Doris Duke's life of rebellion worth the cost? Was the price of her freedom a future filled with scandal and whispered accusations? Doris had a string of affairs with famous men, including General George S. Patton, Errol Flynn, and even rumoured dalliances with women. She married twice, both unions ending in scandal and heartbreak. One of her husbands, Dominican diplomat Porfirio Rubirosa, was a notorious playboy whose affairs embarrassed Doris publicly. His infidelities were legendary, with rumours suggesting he carried on affairs with everyone from Zsa Zsa Gabor to Evita Peron. Perhaps most shocking were the allegations surrounding the death of her longtime companion, Eduardo Tirella. In 1966, Tyrella was killed in a mysterious car accident on Doris's Newport estate. Rumours swirled that Doris, enraged by a heated argument, had deliberately run him over. Though authorities ruled the death an accident, gossip circles were convinced of foul play. In her later years, Doris became increasingly eccentric, amassing an eclectic collection of art, mansions, and exotic animals. She built Shangri-La, a palatial Hawaiian estate filled with Islamic art treasures. Her circle of friends included political leaders, artists, and fortune hunters. Doris Duke's eccentricity, wealth, and defiance make her a fascinating figure, but her controversial legacy lives on, tainted by the shadow of scandal. Marjorie Merriweather Post, America's Grand Dame. Is it possible to live a life of grace and elegance with just a hint of scandal? Marjorie Merriweather Post was both a revered philanthropist and a woman whose private life had its own set of secrets. Not all heiresses succumbed to scandal, though few escaped it entirely. Marjorie Merriweather Post, heiress to the Post cereal empire, wielded her wealth with remarkable influence. Born in 1887, Marjorie inherited her father's fortune and expanded it through savvy investments and strategic marriages. She married 4 times, including to E.F. Hutton, with whom she built a financial empire. Marjorie was a consummate society hostess, entertaining diplomats, Hollywood stars, and royalty at her sprawling estates, including the now infamous Mar-a-Lago. She collected European art and furnishings, much of it salvaged from impoverished aristocrats in the aftermath of World War I. But behind the glamorous facade of her public life, there were whispers of scandal. Her support of isolationist political causes, her rumoured affairs, and the controversies surrounding her art collection all pointed to a woman who wasn't as perfect as the world believed. Though generally admired for her philanthropy and poise, Marjorie's life was not without controversy. Her support of isolationist political causes prior to World War II drew criticism, as did her acquisition of art from displaced European families. Affairs with politicians and diplomats were whispered about behind closed doors, though Marjorie maintained a carefully cultivated public image. She died in 1973, leaving behind a legacy of glamour, generosity, and quiet power, and a trove of untold secrets. Marjorie Merriweather Post's legacy is as complex as the life she led. How much of her success was built on the quiet compromises of high society? What is the price of a polished image, and what remains hidden beneath the surface? The heiresses who fell from grace. Beyond these iconic figures were other heiresses whose lives were equally turbulent. Evelyn Walsh McLean, owner of the infamous Hope Diamond, believed the jewel cursed her family. Indeed, her life was plagued by misfortunes. Her son's death, a husband's descent into madness, and financial ruin. Evelyn herself fell into depression and addiction. Peggy Guggenheim, the Bohemian art collector, shocked society with her open affairs, avant-garde parties, and scandalous memoirs. She defied conventions of both gender and class, flaunting relationships with married men and living openly with her lovers. Nancy Cunard, heir to the Cunard shipping fortune, renounced her privileged upbringing to become a poet, political activist, and fierce opponent of racial and social injustice. Her interracial relationships and radical views alienated her from polite society, leading to her disinheritance. Other names linger in the shadows. Doris Duke's rival, Barbara Woolworth Hutton's estranged relatives, and the mysterious Clara Ward, who abandoned a European title to join a circus and scandalise the courts of Europe. Comment down below if you want to know more about them, and I'll make my next video on that. These heiresses were America's royalty, women whose fortunes rivaled kings and whose scandals eclipsed the salacious tales of Europe's crowned heads. In a society eager to control them, these women rebelled, each in her own way. Some sought love, others power. Many battled personal demons and public judgment. Their lives remind us that behind the glittering facade of privilege often lies a far darker story. They were queens without crowns, rulers of headlines, and architects of their own destinies, for better or worse. Thank you for joining us on Regal Chronicles. If you enjoyed this journey into high society's most scandalous corners, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us next time for more tales of royalty, rebellion, and intrigue.